Hola, me llamo Rama, soy investigador científico y trabajo en un laboratorio. Yo vivo en Estados Unidos. Llevo 8 meses más o menos aprendiendo español. Pensé que sería bueno hacer un video para compartir mis experiencias con el idioma. ¿Listo? Vamos. So I thought I'd start making these videos more or less to track my own progress, and maybe it'll give some people some insights if they're also going on this journey of trying to learn Spanish. So I started learning about 8 months ago. I would say maybe it's a little bit longer than that, but more or less I've been active for about 8 months. And it's obviously been very difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is a lot of effort, and progress is generally very slow. But I want to explain how I did it, why I did it, and those sorts of things. So let's get into it. Firstly, I've been in the United States for 11 years, and obviously you don't need to learn any other languages in the United States other than English. I grew up in Australia, so I am a native English speaker. I was also born in India, and in my house, it's a bilingual house. We spoke Tamil, and therefore I speak, I would say, a moderate level of Tamil. About 15 years ago, when I was at university, I started learning Hindi, which I can more or less understand, probably at an intermediate level, although I'm not a very good speaker of it. But I had never learned a language after arriving here in the United States, and obviously coming here and realizing that there was a huge number of Spanish speakers, as well as just the fact that I needed some kind of change where I needed to challenge myself. I decided that I should maybe give this a go and try to learn this particular language. So how did I start? Well, I did what most people do, which is that they go and download an app and they pay for a subscription and then think that this is going to help them in their language learning journey. And to be honest, it actually did help me in a little bit, at least in the beginning. So I did download Babbel, and I was using it pretty much daily for several months, and that was kind of okay to get used to ordinary phrases. I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I still do, obviously, where there'd be some really nice people like Kuru Paul, for instance, who has some excellent lessons. I really think he's a fantastic teacher. But at the same time, I had also bought some books with exercises and things like that. I bought Madrigal's book for The Magic Key to Spanish, which I read initially, and I got through quite a number of chapters, and that was very good. But at some point, maybe 6 months in, I found that I was not able to sustain that. The motivation to continue, for example, to read books and do exercises and continue on the app kind of just went down. And it was around about the same time that I started learning about the idea of comprehensible input. So obviously most of you are here because you probably know something about comprehensible input, but it certainly made a lot of sense to me. And so I started to effectively cut out everything else and just try to listen and watch content which I could understand. Now, I should mention that, I've probably had about 200 hours over 8 months of input by now. And a lot of it is sort of very basic podcasts and, the stuff that's on Dreaming Spanish for the super beginner and the beginner level. And this is not exactly exciting, to be honest. A lot of it is stuff that if it was not in, this new language, you would probably never listen to it. Just because it's so basic, but that's just a function of the fact that when you start a new language, you are a baby in that language, and you kind of have to deal with baby level content, and there's no getting around it. But I will say that for 6 months of my learning, I could barely understand a word of anything that was said. Even TV shows, after 4 months, Peppa Pig, for example, was super difficult to understand. And even now, it's actually without subtitles. It's still difficult to understand. I can't understand native speakers after 8 months if they speak at a normal speed. That's just impossible. However, if I look at content that's made for beginners and content that's made for maybe sort of lower intermediate level people, I can understand most of it. So that shows that some obviously getting somewhere. But any level of even intermediate content where you have native speakers, for example, on a podcast, it's basically impossible for me to understand even now, for the most part, without subtitles, and even with subtitles, Spanish subtitles that is, it's still a significant challenge, because they do tend to speak a little bit faster than what super beginners would be used to, and some of the vocabulary takes a little bit of time to get used to as well. So that's my journey right now. I see a lot of videos where people have done sort of 500, 1,500 hours, and they're going really well. And so hopefully, in another year and a half, 2 years' time, I will also reach that number, and I'll also be fluent. As far as speaking is concerned, I really don't speak. And so I don't have much practice at it. And according to the roadmap on Dreaming Spanish, you're not really supposed to be speaking at this stage. It's not expected to. I did forget to mention, I thought it's important to add this, is that apart from the content that I watch and listen to on podcasts, the only other thing that I'm doing is that I do text my Spanish-speaking friends in Spanish to a large extent, and that seems to be useful to me because at least I get to read texts, and they've been very accommodating, I would say, and very helpful. So I'm very grateful for that. And it's also a way that I did actually improve my Hindi. 15 years ago, I used to text my friends in Hindi, and I would receive texts in Hindi, and that would be ensure that I would continue to have some amount of having to produce content, right, in that language without actually having to speak it. So I'm not sure if this is something that is recommended or not. It certainly worked for me previously for another language, so I'm trying it here, and hopefully this combination of listening to content and when possible trying to create it at least with text might help speed up the learning process. We'll see. I should have another update in my estimation when I probably reach about 300 or 450 hours by the end of the year, probably around November, December time. Thank you.